Oh, this world is an equal, diverse human ecosystem. There is more that unites us and not divides us. Oh, yeah. Democracy alone cannot deliver the true purpose of life. Oh, 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 yeah, yeah. See me talking to the man. Gotta be the change you wanna see. See me talking to the man. The change you want to see. We can change the world. We can change the world. We can change the world. We can change it. We can change the world. All right. We can change the things. Oh, yeah. We can change the world. We can change the world. We can change the world. Make it a better place. We can change the world. Make it a better place for us. Oh, we see people procrastinating. We see people deferring to others to be the change. Yet we don't know that any motion requires causation. Yeah. Oh. With a human action, history will always be a straight line. It's me and you who rise history by planning election. Hey, to the man in the mirror. Be the change you want to see. You gotta be the change you want to see. Yeah. All right. Gotta be the change you want to see. Be the change you want to see. Change. We can change the world. We can change the world. I know that. Oh, it starts with you and me. We can change the world. Make it a better place, yeah. We can change the world. We can change the world. We can change the world. Oh, yes. It starts.
Change is not the business of the group, but the individual whose thoughts and actions deliver the difference. Inspired by the third spirit to be the change, let us be its engineers, drivers, character, and personality. Start by doing little things that give character and personality. Because history never lies, it tells your story. History is shaped and defined by individual actions. Mandela is not remembered for dress, but his courage and determination and actions too. And change, and we 873 network say change begins with me and you.
See me fucking the man in the mirror.
Briefly tell us who Sir Bantu Holomisa is, what he does, and most importantly, what inspired him.
The Honorable Holomisa.
Bantu Holomisa is a leader of the United Democratic Movement, a former deputy minister in the Mandela cabinet 1994 to 96 in charge of environment and tourism. Leadership is a very broad topic and subject. The important thing is that when you are a leader, so you need to understand the rules of the game of that particular field you are operating in.
And Honorable, when you look at conversations between Mandela and yourself, did he ever tell you about his experience with President Mubarak of Egypt?
That's what I know about. Where did you get that from?
You see, when you happen to be a member of the
I suspect that you guys, you must be working for a national intelligence agency. we need to screen this.
I wish I was working for the national intelligence.
Well, where do you get this high-level courses?
1873.
Are you now thinking of grooming a successor?
No. That doesn't suggest grooming a successor. A successor is groomed by the people, actually. Those around you can get the confidence of the people as they operate around you and gain the confidence of the people. When the people see that their leaders, they can trust their leaders beyond corruption, their leaders knowledgeable, sure. That's the grooming, I mean.
From 1873 to present, and introspect to your heritage.
Can we say behind every successful woman is a lazy nigga? I don't know. What do you say?
No, definitely not. I think behind every successful woman is another successful woman.
Oh, I like
so
that.
I definitely think that women look out for each other. There's a misconception that we're always attacking each other or something, but I definitely think that we do tend to look after each other.
Definitely.
One piece of advice I always give to young people is that they need to understand how finances work.
Empowering the mind, enriching the nation. 1873.
My time and yours is exactly 8 o'clock Central African time on the 1873 FM. And if you just tuned in, well, thank you for making the 1873 FM your channel of choice. It is the Continental Sunrise Breakfast Show, your wake-up call, Monday to Friday between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. Central African time with your host, Tinashe Mpasiri. And we get to have robust conversations, interesting conversations with various individuals with different skills and expertise, them just sharing their personal experiences and insights as to how, as individuals, we can be able to define and shape the character and personality of the kind of future that we want, the kind of future that you want, the kind of future that I want. And this morning, I'm very honored to be joined in the studio by two phenomenal ladies. The first one being Ruvimbo Samanga. Ruvimbo, good morning to you, and thank you for joining us on the 1873 FM this morning.
Morning, Tinashe. Thank you for having me.
Well, it is indeed a pleasure to have you, and so that we can just get to have a conversation with you. Also joined in the studio by Cynthia Chigwenya. Cynthia, good morning to you, and thank you for giving up time to be on the 1873 FM this morning.
Oh, Tinashe, it's always a pleasure having you around, and thank you so much for having us today.
Okay, so maybe we could start by talking to you, Ruvimbo.
Yes.
I mean, Cynthia, you're no stranger on the 1873 FM. I'm sure our listeners, are used to hearing your voice and seeing you. But Ruvimbo, it's your first time on the 1873 FM.
It is.
And here you are. Talk to our listeners. Who is Ruvimbo Samanga? And what is it that she is known for? What is it that she does?
Oh, wow, that's a very broad question, but Ruvimbo Samanga is a small town girl from Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, and I'm studying law at the University of Pretoria. I'm highly interested in the development of Africa, and everything I've done up until this point has furthered that mission. I'm very involved in my community, in my academics, and in my leadership role, so I just really do a lot in my sphere of influence to bring African issues to the fore. I'm currently studying a master's in trade and investment, and I hope that the skills that I learned there can help us foster better trade relations on the continent. But over and above that, I have a lot of other interests as well. I'm also interested in space law, which is a very niche area of law, and not many people are well versed on that. I hope we can discuss a little more on that later. But I also do have fun. Amongst all of the things that I do, I enjoy sports, I enjoy leisure, I do my fair share of YouTube streaming and gaming. So I'm a well-rounded individual.
Wow. It sounds like a lot, to be honest. But, well, Why not? I mean, when you are so young and you still have the time to do all these things, because one remarkable man once said, "So much to do, yet so little time." Do you know who said that?
Probably me.
Was that Napoleon?
No, not Napoleon. This is what John wrote. Those are his last words
Oh, wow.
before he died. Yes. So, I mean, Ruvimbo, firstly, I would also like to say congratulations on being nominated as a Young Achiever of the Year. That is for the Zimbabwe Achievers Awards that will be taking place in the month of April.
Yes, thank you so much. It was a great honor.
So to talk to us, I mean, you've mentioned that you are very so fond of the developmental of the continent, and you have been nominated for this. I would say it's prestigious award to be recognized on such a platform for the role that you play. I mean, what is it that inspired you as an individual to be able to go study law, and now you happen to be studying trade? You're pursuing your master's in trade and blah 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 blah. But also, yet at the same time, you are involved in quite a number of community development projects.
Yes. So really, it is a highly prestigious award, and I think it will do a lot to advance some of the issues that I may have, or some of the issues we face as a country and a continent. And I think really what stemmed my desire to change these issues were, I think I echo the sentiments of many Zimbabweans, just the Zimbabwean situation and the Zimbabwean context that we've had to grow up in. Obviously, you're exposed to a lot more challenges that are uniquely Zimbabwean. And I think one of the areas that we need to develop is in trade and industry. And I believe Zimbabwe is a sleeping giant, and it has a lot that it can capitalize on. And there's a lot of gaps as well in the law. So when I was growing up, I always envisioned an international career, one that would allow me to make vast changes, large scale change. And for me, I always felt that law is the most effective way to bring about that kind of change. And I think somewhere along the way, as I began to experience, things like the commodity crisis in Zimbabwe, cash shortage, it really inspired an interest to understand what exactly is going on in our economic sphere that affects us so badly. So these are some of the issues that have inspired my decision to study trade and investment. And I hope I can take my skills back home.
It's so interesting that you mentioned that there are gaps as far as law is concerned, and that's one particular area that actually ignites me. Like, hey, we headed somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You hit the spot on, especially as far as, I mean, when you talk of economic development. Would you agree with me that where there's no rule of law, there can never be any meaningful progress? There can never be any meaningful economic development.
Precisely that. And we see Zimbabwe has the largest informal trading sector in the whole world. And this is just an indication of the lack of any regulatory frameworks. Even if we look at the way that there's no inter-trade legislation in Zimbabwe, there's no mechanism for people to know how to trade in shares and securities in the Zimbabwean context. And that's a very big problem because it leads to fluctuations and price increases and all sorts of uncertainty, which isn't good for the populace and it's not good for the economy either. So I'm involved in a lot of policy and frameworking, and I hope that these are some of the things that I can bring before the Zimbabwean government and hopefully bring a change to that situation.
Interesting. We're going to come back to that. So just turning over to you, Cynthia. I mean, it's so interesting that we having this conversation as far as development is concerned. And really, where there's no rule of law, there cannot be any meaningful development. When you look at the challenges that are faced on the continent, you think of the triple challenges. You talk of unemployment, you talk of inequality, you talk of poverty. But really, do we have a shared understanding of what poverty is and what it is not, which we deem to be the biggest challenge on the continent? And it's not just the continent; it's a global phenomenon. You go to South America, you find people. They say there's talk of people living in poverty. You go to Asia as well. You go to other continents, even in Europe. You go to Australia. So when you look at that aspect of poverty, would you agree with me that the opposite of wealth is not poverty?
All right. I think your question is very okay. So your question was that would I agree with you that the opposite of wealth is not poverty?
No, the opposite of poverty is not wealth. Either way.
All right. Okay. I think I'll need you to be very clear on on that question, Tinashe. When you say the opposite of wealth is not poverty, you're then insinuating that there's another class in between the two classes that we've said, because we've clearly said there's a class that is wealthy and one that is poor or that is living under the poverty line. So when we're saying the opposite of poverty is not wealth, and these are two distinct groups of people that we have, so are we then suggesting that there's a middle class? Is it present? Is that what you're insinuating when you're saying the opposite?
No, what I'm basically insinuating is that really, do we have a shared understanding of these two terms? What wealth is and what it is not, and what poverty is and what it is not.
Yeah, well, that is very true. I think drawing from social sciences perspective, which is what I'm qualified in, we have a relative deprivation. So that is another way of defining poverty. Are you poor because another person is rich? Are you poor because somebody in a different area has got a better service compared to you? Or are you poor because you're living below the standard or line? So when we're saying somebody is relatively deprived, we then define poverty in comparison to other groups. So we are saying that, are you poor because you're living in a shanty town or in a squatter settlement and your housing is not up to standard as compared to somebody else who has an opulent home and they're living in a very luxurious way?
So, I mean, I just want to touch on that aspect of wealth in itself. Whether the two of you agree with me that wealth is stored value.
I would believe so. I would believe wealth is a conglomeration of things. Of course, we have the financial aspect, but I also think wealth is the knowledge, the ideas, the pool of resources, and what you do with those resources as well. That's how you turn wealth into something more.
I just want you to imagine in the animal kingdom. Is there wealth in the animal kingdom?
I would say so. I mean, looking from a trade and industry perspective, I would say there's wealth in maybe tourism.
No, I'm saying the animal kingdom. Just imagine the animal kingdom.
The animal kingdom?
Yes. Where you have your baboons, where you have your lions, the gazelles. Do they still have value? Is there wealth there?
I would say everything has its own intrinsic value, including animals as well. Everything has to be worth something.
But where would, let's say, for instance, a cheetah hunts down a springbok, right? It's hungry, it eats, but it's fed up, or rather, it's full, and there's still some meat that is left. Where would it store that meat?
But from consuming whatever it has captured, it has stored energy, and that is a form of wealth. Because in comparison to a cheetah that has not had a meal, then that is some form of energy or value that it has.
It is consumed, right?
Yes.
But there's still that some is left that it is not consumed. Where does it store it?
All right. So you're suggesting that in the human nature, there's a point where we get to when we say we've consumed everything and we're satisfied with the amount of wealth that we have.
Okay. Let me put it this way. I buy, let's say, a loaf of bread, right?
Yes.
I eat 4 slices and I'm full.
Yes.
And the rest, I can store it somewhere in whatever they call it, a bread, whatever.
Bread
right?
box. Yeah.
Bread box. Yes. But in the animal kingdom, there's no way you can actually store something. Because the moment that cheetah is done eating, another animal can come through. Whether it's a vulture or it's a hyena. So really, there's no storage of value in the animal kingdom. But in the human ecosystem, we can actually be able to store up value. This in itself is value. And the moment I leave it here and I go somewhere else, I'll find it here. Unless somebody else takes it,
Yes.
which is basically theft. And hence why we have the rule of law that basically
protects our interests.
And that's it. So where there's no rule of law, there can be no meaningful development. And individuals by nature are aspirational. They work hard and store up value of what they've worked hard for. But where there's no respect for property rights, where there's no regard for the rule of law.
Precisely.
Would you think that would you be aspirational, to be honest?
Not at all. You need certain regulations in place because it goes actually to the heart of the rule of law. The reason we have laws is that people can know what is expected of them and what they can also expect. So it just goes to the heart of certainty. People need certainty in order to make goals, in order to know what they're aspiring to, in order to know what they're working towards and what's the outcome. And where people don't have certainty on that, you see that there's just a disintegration in the social stratosphere.
So now just looking at Africa, for instance, we happen to the first country which is to attain independence was Ghana.
Yes.
That was in 1957. So basically, this year Ghana will be like 62. So you'd actually like in Africa to be like a 62-year-old. 62 years into independence, when you look at where we happen to be at this very moment, are you happy with the progress that's being made?
I'm not happy at all. To be completely honest, I think you likened Africa to a 62-year-old. I wouldn't like Africa to be as dependent as it is on outside sources. I believe, and one of my areas of research is really how can we increase inter-African trade, because I believe Africa on its own can do very well. We have everything that we need on the continent in terms of resources, human capital, land, and these are some of the issues that need to be brought to the fore, is how can we better utilize our own resources, because we're still in that awkward position where we buy what we don't make and we sell what we don't produce. So how can we shift that? I'll give the example maybe of Nigeria, one of the biggest oil producers in the world, has 7 oil refineries. So it is very capable of refining its own crude oil into various oil products, but fails to do so. In fact, it has to export oil to other countries, and that oil then is brought back to Africa to be used. And that doesn't make sense because we are the source and we have our own mechanism. So, there are really big gaps as well in infrastructure development. We are the largest cocoa producers, but we're not the largest manufacturers of chocolate. How is that? We just export the cocoa and other countries re-import the chocolate back to us. So I think we also have to change this idea of, or lack of trust in African products as well. We really don't trust what comes from Africa, but really we are the source and we are the breadbasket of the world, I believe.
So would you say that at the end of the day, it's also an issue whereby as individuals, we don't actually have an understanding of what value is?
All right, but just before we move on to answer that question, Tinashe, I just wanted to add on to what Ruvimbo said, that apart from the physical structures or the mechanical structures that we need to produce or to process some of the raw materials that we have, there's also one important issue that we are facing in Africa. 62 years, as you said, after independence, after Ghana attained its independence, and after various countries attained their independence, we are still classified as still developing countries, yet we've contributed so much to the development of the so-called developed countries. So another issue that we have, apart from the physical structures to produce, to process, we also have other barriers that we have, the lack of structures or systems that ensure transparency and accountability. And on the issue of accountability, we have to make reference to the Constitution or to the rule of law. And we say, you are a person who's in a certain position, either to unearth minerals or to, or you have a certain portfolio that you have. But how much are you accountable, not just to the office or to the person who appointed you, but to the Constitution itself, which prioritizes its citizens, which says that perhaps South Africa belongs to all who live in it. So the issue of Constitution and law then becomes a very important issue when it comes to manufacturing, when it comes to accountability. And right now we have various issues that are going on in South Africa. We have several hearings and inquiries that are going on. And that stems from the lack of accountability. And once we're able to develop systems like that, then people are more accountable to even develop our nations before we develop every other place.
Wow, on that note, let's just quickly go on a break. Very interesting aspects that you actually raised as far as the issue of constitutionalism and, more importantly, individuals who happen to have been appointed to a public office being accountable, being able to promote, being able to protect and uphold the Constitution in itself to ensure that the kind of future that you want basically can be secured or can be attained. On that note, stay tuned to the 1873 FM, your voice, your power, your voice on subjects that matter, your power to inspire new thinking, new outcomes, and new possibilities.
1873 FM.
I want to find out what it is that you have done for the people of Angola so far. I mean, you want to be the change that you want to see. So what change? Because we can sit here and talk about all the problems Angola has and all the problems Africa has.
I'm not just here to paint badly
Yes,
our current government, but we also have some aims. And one of them, talking politically, is that we want to give back, what we are calling citizenship back to them. What I mean by that? What I mean is that in Angola, unfortunately, and I think this is a problem of most African countries, is like, if you are not a holder of a membership of the current party.
Concerning the inviting people to come to Angola, people are complaining concerning the visa. Put your passport in the embassy. Sometimes it takes 1 month or 2 months for you to get the visa. Once you're in the government, are you going to work on that?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Benjamin. What we assist is that one can submit his visa application and he can stay for 2 or 3 months. Once, he's a businessman. He has a lot of activities. We also want to change this bureaucratic way of treating people who are interested to go in Angola,
The Lady Baltina and Tinashe Mpasiri.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at 1873 FM. Hashtag 1873 FM.
That the majority of the people feel that there is no replacement, actually, no successor who to them acceptable as I am. But the people, would want to judge everyone else.
And as far as prosperity is concerned, this is Stephen now. He's asking whether you can have prosperity without justice at all.
Now, Stephen's question is quite vague because I'm not sure what he's talking about prosperity and justice, how he's filtering that in. Maybe it's a topic also that we need to engage further on.
Driving you into the future. Unleashing the sacred sounds of the motherland. Radio has never tasted this good from this side of the hemisphere. Drive.
Well, it's gone 20 minutes after the hour 8 at Central African time on the 1873 FM's Continental Sunrise Breakfast Show. And the conversation still continues with Ruvimbo as well as Cynthia in the studio. A very interesting conversation, I must say, especially when we look at the issue of development, when we look at the issue of securing the kind of future that we want, the kind of Africa that you want. What sort of Africa would you want to see, and how best do you think that okay, let's put it this way. What kind of future would you want to see, and how best do you think that a future can be won or secured? Would you like a future where there's no regard for the rule of law, where there's no respect of the Constitution by those who happen to be in public office? Or you would want a future whereby those who happen to be in public office, they uphold, they protect, they also promote the Constitution, and also there is a regard for property rights for individuals who aspire to work hard at the end of the day and be able to store up whatever value that they realize by them combining their time and effort. You can be part of the conversation by simply making use of our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, as well as Instagram. The handle to follow is at the 1873 FM. So back into the studio. I think before we went on to that short break that we had, Cynthia had actually raised a very critical point as far as the aspect of constitutionalism is concerned. And when you look at most of the countries that seem to be less economically developed, and where you seem to have more people who are natives leaving that country, going into other countries, would you agree that at the end of the day, there's need for individuals to be able to play their part in ensuring that constitutionalism is restored in those countries?
I believe a significant amount of brain drain has occurred, that is, citizens leaving their home countries for lack of opportunities. And I do believe everyone does have a certain part to play, but it's also a very it's a relationship between government and the people. So while the people also have a part to play, the institutions also have their role in fostering an environment where the citizens have an opportunity, have a say, have the platforms and the forums to make those changes.
You mentioned something that I picked up that is very critical also to understand, that government and the people. Who is government?
Who is government?
Yeah.
These are the state heads, the people in power, those who have the ability to change the status quo.
And Cynthia, who is government to you?
I think government is the people.
The people.
If we're living in a democratic nation, and democracy means the people's power. So the government is the people. So we have the right to determine what the people we have appointed get to do. So this is exercised through voting, this is exercised through various elections that we have. And may not be so because of various constraints, such as the lack of accountability to the people who appoint these individuals and to the constitution itself. But the government are the people, the citizens of a particular nation.
I take my point back. I agree with Cynthia.
Every day we learn.
We learn.
And I always there's actually a friend of mine who calls me ready to think. Because I'm always ready to learn. And this is the whole purpose also of the 1873 FM, that we through our shared experiences, through a shared insight and exchange of ideas, we also get to be better equipped and better informed. And when we are better informed people, it means also the decisions that we are going to make are going to be from an informed basis, and they can enable us to access opportunities that ordinarily people wouldn't be able to access. So on that note, I know we are really running out of time. It's been a very interesting conversation, but I think these conversations can always be broadened, can also be deepened by you and I being able to, build a community of individuals who have an interest in conversations around restoration of the constitutionalism as well as the rule of law. Is it something that would interest you and that you'd be keen to be part of?
Definitely. Like I said, I'm involved in policy and frameworking, and we have too many gaps in our laws, not only in the Zimbabwean context, but in the continent as a whole. And I think we need more accountability mechanisms.
So, okay, in order for us to be able to do so, and not just in the studio, but also, engage with other individuals, this is the 1873 Network website, which is www.the1873network.org. So basically all you have to do is visit the website, then register yourself. Once you have registered yourself, you can just connect with me, just add friend, Tinashe Mpasiri, I'm there. Then create a group where we can have conversations on the restoration of constitutionalism and also the rule of law. And we can be able to look at certain case studies that can be able to broaden our thinking as to how we have come to where we are. When you look at the causes of unemployment, when you look at the causes of inequality, when you look at the causes of poverty, and we can use basically case studies, real life case studies that are there, and also tap into the brains of other individuals who have got experiences to share. So do you think that you'll be able to register yourself on the website today so that we can start moving?
Definitely. We need to engage on these issues as the youth.
Before we wrap up the show, obviously, it's important that you also share your last words. I know the one thing that is very important also is for yourself to be able to tell people where they can be able to vote for you, since you've been nominated as a Young Achiever of the Year.
Yes, definitely. So I'd encourage everyone to visit the Zimbabwean Achievers Award website. There you'll find the different categories of awards. Basically, this initiative is to recognize top achievers in different areas and different sectors. And I've been nominated under the Young Achievers Award category. And there's a pool of talent that I'm up against, and we all have our own personal reasons for receiving this award. But I'd highly appreciate your support in this regard. Please drop a vote for me on the link as many times as you please. And this will really just give me the necessary support that I need to continue my mandate in the trade and economic development issues that I'm focusing on this year.
And Cynthia, your last words before we wrap up this segment?
All right. I just want to reiterate what Ruvimbo has just said. In order for her to win, and I think she's proven beyond doubt during this interview and beyond that she's really a very passionate and Pan-African individual who's very passionate about African development, not just Zimbabwe, but Africa at large. And she could be an asset to our nation and to Africa at large. So please, please go and drop your vote. And hopefully we'll come back sometime in April to celebrate the achievement.
We definitely have to come and celebrate. And yes, looking forward to the awards. I hope this time I won't hit a red carpet with shorts. Well, on that note, thank you so much, Ruvimbo. Thank you so much, Cynthia, for joining us this morning on the 1873 FM and just getting to share your experiences as well as your insights and as to how you think the future of Africa can be secured. And I like that you two ladies, you believe that it's through constitutionalism, it's through the rule of law that we can be able to secure a more inclusive, progressive, and prosperous Africa.
Definitely.
Well, I salute you for that. And on that note, we go on a quick break. Keep it locked on your channel of choice, the 1873.